I've never wanted to be like everybody else.
To more of a loving lifestyle.
Different types of dom styles for different partners.
Doing the sex.
Hello, and welcome to Fourth Wheel Podcast with your favorite throuple. I'm Cam, and I'm joined with my partners,
Will.
And Paige.
And today our fourth wheel guest is my good friend William from Colorado, who actually introduced me in many ways to all things polyamory, relationship anarchy, and kink exploration. So it should be a really fascinating conversation today. And full disclosure, William and I met on Bumble. So you are going to get some real insight into all of this. So with that said, I want to make sure we give ample space. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us. And
you're very welcome.
happy to have you here.
Right on.
And thank you for all you've already taught me. And I'm looking forward to what you can teach our listeners too.
That's a lot of pressure. We need to back this down. Like all about very low expectations.
No pressure. No pressure at all. But no, I do want to make sure we give ample time to one of the terms that I feel is not given enough attention in this space, the non-traditional space, which is relationship anarchy. Sounds pretty scary to the average person who's maybe never heard the term before. So
Yeah, what is this?
will you, in your own words, tell us what it is?
In my own words. Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I feel like I have to start with the more, philosophical aspects of it. So, doing classical, like anarchy in general is just like the abolition of control, right? So, if there's a person or like an entity that is claiming authority, that, form of, domination or control is understood to be not legitimate from the jump, right? And it's on the person or the entity that is claiming authority to prove that it needs to be there, right? Because otherwise it does not, right? It's not up to the people who are experiencing it to prove that it's not okay, although that's, typically what happens. And I think that stuff like RA is a way to get around some of the more, polypurity stuff that we've seen. This, I don't know, maybe a hot take, but, I would like to find a singular person and have like a primary partner in like the poly sort of like language, and then just maybe have it be us at some point. I think that that's a thing that I want. I've been polyamorous. I've had partners before. I've had a primary partner in the past, but having talked to people in the polyamory space, saying that you want a primary partner that is monogamous is almost like a sacrilege in some cases. And fuck that. People want what they want, and to me, that's the abolition of control. As long as everybody's consenting, as long as that's what people want to do, there's no right way to do being a human, right?
So when you say monogamous within this polyamory relationship, are you speaking kind of like the three of us where it's a closed triad, or are you speaking where you have your primary and you guys are closed, but then one of you is going, or how does the monogamy work in that situation?
Yes to all the above,
Anarchy, got it.
Yeah, exactly. That could be the case. So for example, I was seeing somebody, a couple years ago, and we decided we met each other in the context of being polyamorous, right? And so we started seeing each other, and then pretty quickly after that, she started seeing a couple, right? And she did not want to have a primary partner, but just through the course of, human events, we wound up being each other's primary partner, right? Which is, again, not something that she wanted, but it just sort of started to happen on its own. And I wasn't seeing anybody for the longest time because I didn't have a desire to see anybody else, So I was poly in the sense that my partner was seeing two other people at the same time. I could have if I wanted to, but for the longest time, I just didn't. And then I got kind of a, shout out from an ex, and we started seeing each other, but it became very clear that you don't have to be seeing all the people at the same time, right? Like one person can just be content with how things are, while the other person is seeing whoever they're seeing. Again, as long as everybody is informed and, consenting, then it's cool.
So what were some of the boundaries or rules within that dynamic, right? Was it a thing where it was like, hey, when we're together, and that's it? Or like, yeah, I'm interested in how that worked.
Yeah, that's a good question. We were fluid bonded, which I actually didn't know was a thing until she told me about it. I learned quite a bit from, that experience. And so the rules for us were...
real quick, what is fluid?
Okay, yeah. So we use condoms for the first, month or two of us being together. And then we stopped using condoms, because we talked about it, got tested and everything. And okay, cool. And then the agreement was if we're seeing anybody else, then we would use condoms with that person, Also, the couple that she was seeing, they did not, like my partner and the guy in the relationship did not have, penetrative sex. And so that wasn't really an issue, And this happened even before we developed, this is like one of the stops on the way to becoming like each other's, primary partner is, okay, I'm just going to be fluid bonded with you. So like no protection because we know what we're doing. And to me, that's, I like stuff like that. I get that, coming from the anarchist perspective, maybe that's going to be frowned on, but I like feeling special. I like being somebody's like number one or number two in this case, or just like one, like, horizontally, I guess, like the two, you know what I mean? I like that kind of shit. And so, yeah, it meant something to me for sure. And it meant something to her, obviously. But it's very much sort of like make the rules as you go. I don't want it to sound too chaotic, obviously, but again, there's no right or wrong way to do, polyamory, just as long as it's what everybody wants, Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
And that's what I have found a lot recently in some polyamorous circles where people are teaching or coaching on polyamory, and it's a for defining polyamory as, loving many and loving freely, right? There's a small box that they want you to fit in order to be truly polyamorous, right? Where, to your point, I think there's no rules on what is the right or wrong way to do a relationship, as long as the involved parties in that relationship are consenting and happy with how things are. And each member of that relationship is feeling fulfilled and satisfied and loved within the dynamics that you have set out for yourself, right? So when some of these circles, you mentioned polypurity, right? Where they talk about, you can't have hierarchy within your polyamorous relationships. And I think that's too limiting. I think if you want a hierarchical relationship where you have your primary partner or a nesting partner that does get, some of that special, allocation in your life, right? That has a little more say in how things go, and is the first person that you check in with or what have you, then that's a beautiful thing. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a hierarchical standpoint in the relationships that you want, as long as you are still loving your other partners in the way that they feel happy with too, right, and are consenting to. The only time it hurts somebody is if somebody's not feeling loved. And if they're not, they're no longer, they don't have to be a partner in that dynamic if they are looking for a primary of their own, or if they want a more, non-hierarchical structure.
Right. Yeah. And there was something I was going to say about one thing. Oh, yeah. So this is going to be a hot take, especially for anybody who is listening that is into, RA. But I don't believe that non-hierarchical polyamory exists. I think it's bullshit, to be honest.
Same. I agree with you.
Yeah, right on. I think that it's possible. I feel like it would have to be under very specific circumstances, like everybody's sort of meeting at the same time, I guess, and maybe even all like living together. But in my experience, and I should also preface this with, this is just me, right? This is just like what my, fairly limited perspective is. But I feel like there's always going to be one person that you're going to be drawn to. If you're seeing people like on their own, if it's a throuple, then okay, like I obviously like that, makes sense. Okay, fine. But if it's in, this is going to sound weird, but the more traditional,
Right.
polyamory and stuff. I was attracted to my girlfriend that time, right? Like where she wouldn't check in with the couple that she was seeing about, hey, we're going to go on a trip. Is that cool with you guys? We would just go on a trip. Versus if they were going to go on a trip, like the three of them, then she would check in with me.
Right.
Right. It's just like that kind of stuff because that's just naturally how it played out. And again, I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's what the thing was.
Well, that's how most relationships, regardless of intimacy or not, like friendships.
Right.
You
Right.
have closer friends and you have friends that you're not as close with.
That's good.
You got a best friend potentially. It just kind of depends.
I mean,
Yeah.
even with children, people, they can say it all they want.
This
but
one's my favorite.
you are often going to have favorite children, and this is why I only have one.
I was going to say, you should have the one kid, right?
I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, you may love them completely differently, just like you would love your other partners differently and for different reasons. But you are oftentimes going to have some sort of favoritism,
Sure.
whether you even recognize it or not.
Yeah.
It's going to come out one way or another.
So, William, with RA, what has been the biggest benefit that you found?
That's a good question. The biggest benefit, I would say, I liked feeling part of a team, if that makes sense. I really enjoyed my partner, seeing other people, having that experience, and then talking with them, about it, of seeing how happy they were. I'm kind of reminded of, I think Cam had a post, it was probably on TikTok originally, but I saw it on, I want to say Instagram, talking about what, compersion is. And yeah, I felt that, and I felt, again, like I was part of a team because I was included in the conversation, about the stuff. And like my partner was queer too. And there comes a point where it's just like me being a dude with the equipment that I have is just, you need more than that, right? And so seeing her, get that and seeing her be fulfilled was really fulfilling for me too. Like that was very cool. I forget who I was talking to about this. This might have been you at some point. That all DOMs are like anxiously attached, so they're all really just like softies that are looking to be accepted by people,
Yes.
And that's it. That's for sure me in terms of like the anxious, preoccupied attachment. And so being accepted and included in something is very like calming for me because it's like I get to be a part of the thing. And so that was cool, and in general, like I, probably should have started with this, but like polyamory and RA at its essence is the abolition of, like domination and control and, hierarchy, but also the transcendence of, like jealousy.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that people shouldn't feel, jealous about something. People are humans. They're going to feel what they're going to feel. Right. But having it maybe consume your relationship or consume your identity, or consume a part of your life. Hopefully, you can transcend that. And that's what I've been working towards is that just accepting I can't offer all the things to my partner. I've kind of likened it to telling your partner that no one else can make you laugh. Like I'm the only person that can make you laugh.
Yeah.
And if somebody else makes you laugh, then fuck you then. And like what is that?
As a comedian, I love that analogy.
Really? Right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. So obviously there's some great benefits of it. What have been some of the downfalls?
Being excluded is sort of like the most obvious one. So if there were four of us, right? So like myself and my partner and then the couple that she was seeing, they were all three queer, and I was the only person who was straight. There's also like conversation to have about like, is polyamory queer,
Right,
or is it
yeah.
straight? And I'm, being who I am, I can't fucking comment on that. I don't know, but I was the only, straight dude out of the four. And, I get queer spaces and all that stuff. But there were times where I wasn't invited to things, and I felt kind of like, pushed off to the side a little bit. And, like to an extent, I get that, but I also communicated that like a couple of times and be like, hey, is there a thing that I can go to? I think that she was working through things on her own. And, for her specifically, I think bringing a straight, cishet dude around would have meant something to her that she didn't want to, communicate necessarily. Yeah. And that's kind of where we're getting into this like polypurity and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot to say about her approach to feminism and being polyamorous. And wait till you hear me talk about feminism, because again, obviously I will have a lot to say about it. No one should listen to me about fucking anything.
I find it interesting because I've experienced that also as a cis white male, right? Who's attractive and tall, and good looking.
I get
and
it,
funny
Will.
and all
Okay,
these things, right? Yeah, we're very, very similar. But I also understand it in a gatekeeping way as far as the community goes, right? Because the poly community, the LGBT community, all those things are communities that have been pushed out onto the fringes for so long that now that they're more acceptable and stuff, it's kind of like, whoa. You guys didn't let us hang out. Like, you can't be here now. So there are times that I understand that.
100%.
And then there's other times where I'm like, it wasn't me though. I wasn't the one doing it.
I'm an ally.
I am an ally.
Or like, I'm the boyfriend, do I get to be a part of the thing? It sounds cool.
By association, you're part of the community, you know?
And like the problem too was, she would always talk about like past partners and everybody all hanging out together. And, I was like, yeah, I want to do that too. That sounds cool. I know that all of your partners have met each other before, and I hadn't met anybody,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It was a thing. Her being who she was. So we're going to sort of veer off into a tangent for a second, but she was also, this was, the anti-vaxxer camp that I was telling you about too. So here we go. Yeah. And I'm going to say this just so we have it out there. If you're not doing like intersectional, feminism, and you're white, you're just doing white supremacy. Like that's just all that is, right? Because the way that she would pursue, feminism for her was anti-vax, non-standard medicine, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, you're privileged enough to have that take, because if something really crazy happens, then you have access to a hospital. You're white. You have a master's degree. Your parents are together. You have a house. You have me, who also has his stuff, and it's just like the privilege allows a lot of people to have really terrible takes and not necessarily have to think about them, like being anti-vax. For example, she was not, immunocompromised or anything. It was just a personal choice. And it's like, okay, cool. But I'm very COVID averse, right? Like I don't want to get COVID, right? And that was a sticking point for us a couple of times where she wouldn't want to wear a mask in places and all that. And so a lot of that, like rigidity also showed up in how she approached, like being polyamorous and our relationship. And because I was who I was, straight white men are bad. And it's like, well, baby, like you're like, I'm me, like you're dating one, like, so can I be a part of the
She
thing?
probably internalized a little bit of hatred for herself because of that.
Sure.
And not feeling like she was her best feminist self by having that be a part of her relationship identity.
Yeah. And like she would wear shit like, protect trans kids, like the shirt and stuff, but then send me things from like RFK Jr., who is anti-trans. And it's like, it's because you're not trans. You don't have to experience that. And so you can send me things from people who are going to be like, we need to laser trans people from orbit, and it's like, yeah, because you're not that. So you're not experiencing it,
Yeah. Cognitive dissonance is a huge issue when it comes to just Americans in general. But it feels like whenever you start approaching the subject of swingers and things like that, of casting stones when they're in the glass house,
Mhm.
right? But you're doing this,
Yeah.
but you are aligned with these things and you're judging it. And it's very interesting to see how many people go against their self-interest.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you think maybe the general public or even the polyamorous community might have about relationship anarchy?
That's a good question. I think some of the biggest misconceptions is that it's chaos. It's the same misconceptions that people have about political anarchy or philosophical anarchy, where it just means chaos, and that's not what it means. It means the abolition of hierarchy or like unjustifiable hierarchy, right? And the dismantling of domination and control that's not consented upon in this case. And yeah, it's not that. It's all very structured. People are informed. It just because this is America, there's a lot of political like language, just like a lot of language in general that is loaded with terms, right? That either don't mean that or mean the exact opposite, or are coded with something. And I think this is just like another example.
Yeah. No, I would agree too. Like anytime I've thrown the word out to someone or to a client of mine, I always have to say it sounds a lot scarier than it really is. All it really means is like the people involved in the relationship get to set the rules and boundaries of that relationship and what are going to make each of you happy, whether you want to be monogamous or polyamorous or closed or open or, whatever the dynamic is. If one of you is able to, explore outside and the other one is going to remain monogamous, it's all okay. If it's okay with you, that's all that matters. Who cares about the structure that society has deemed appropriate? Who cares about, what polyamorous, the purists deem as true polyamory? Who cares? You do what's going to make each of you feel happiest and most fulfilled and loved within that dynamic for as long as you decide that works. And guess what? If at some point those rules and boundaries don't work for you, you can always change them, because that's also the beauty of it, is a little bit of fluidity there.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like just the idea of flexibility in relationships that you're setting. As you said, okay, you've had this time in different polyamorous relationships, but now looking for more of a primary partner. It looks more traditional, and it's almost like you might get feedback of, well, you're just changing your mind. This is not really what you want.
Right.
No, that's the whole point, though, is through experiences you can narrow down or even expand what your wants and needs are.
Yeah. Human beings are way too complex to fit into any kind of a box. And that's what RA to me is that there is no box. That's the whole point. There's no way to do this correctly. And it's just like whatever is needed at the time,
Paige, I think that was a great point that you made just about being able to change your mind. And it's not a sign of weakness or a sign necessarily of flip-flopping. Of course, there are people that may often change their stance just dependent on who they're with at the moment, or, for various superficial reasons or convenient reasons. But I do think it's really a sign of growth and of a very emotionally intelligent person when they can truly have their mind changed about something and be willing to not compromise their opinions, but have their opinions evolve. Because you've got more information. And really that's why we should always be curious. We should always be learning. And part of why we wanted to do this podcast was just to educate more people so that you don't have to make these assumptions that are incorrect, and you don't have to hold certain beliefs. If you learn a little bit about something, even if you don't agree with it or have no interest in this lifestyle, at least you can better understand it and probably take something away from it. And maybe it does ultimately lead you to change your mind, not for yourself, but for how you might see others that partake in some sort of non-traditional lifestyle. That would be, for me, my personal goal with this is to just, educate where we can and encourage people to have an open enough mind to understand why this lifestyle is right for many people. It's not for everybody by any means. there's a lot of reasons why it can't work for some people. And, but as long as you are willing to kind of try to understand something and try to understand that which you do not know, we don't have to fear the other, we can just understand the other.
That's good.
The information aspect too being key. I think it's super important to acknowledge that emotions are information. And like, for example, when Will and I first met you, Cam, and we weren't looking for a relationship or a third or anything, just physical activities and good hang. But then once we were spending more time together and feelings started developing, if we were like out with like a different woman or something, I remember starting to feel like, I'm not as into this anymore. Like, I would rather be spending this time with Cam. And that was a very distinctive emotional feeling of being like, I'm just like not interested in looking for like different hookups. And I remember communicating that to Will too. And then you as well communicate to us pretty much right before we decided to go exclusive, of being like, I don't think I really want you guys kind of going on dates with other women now either. And it's not what we expected, but we let our emotions become information for us to drive these conversations and then look at what that flexibility did for our relationship and how we truly developed as a throuple.
Yeah, and I wasn't interested in dating other men anymore either, because I realized, I wasn't enjoying those dates. I wasn't fully present on them, giving them my, full attention or energy. And it was always distracting just thinking about you guys or leaving those dates and be like, oh, I just want to talk to them. Yeah. And so, it wasn't fair to anybody that I was trying to see in addition to you. Because originally, I was going about it looking for my primary, and that y'all were going to be ancillary fun. That I didn't see going anywhere, not that I didn't see us going anywhere, but I didn't see you guys not being a part of my equation. But I still had that idea of like, I would have a primary, and then I would also have Will and Paige. And then it very quickly morphed into like, no, I think actually Will and Paige are just my primary. That's really all I need right now.
Yeah. And it was interesting because we could not only feel that shift in desire as far as like outside relationships, but we could see it in you, and especially during the time when you were still in denial. So it is interesting how it works when you communicate, when you are honest and truthful with yourself. It can work, and things can happen that you never expected.
Yeah.
So it's always great.
Not only do you need to be curious about whatever you don't know about or what you don't understand, but always be curious about yourself too.
Yes.
And curious about understanding parts of yourself that maybe you haven't explored yet. And when given the opportunity to explore that and presented with new emotions, being ready to, pour into that and give it its due time and exploration, so that you can better understand who you are or who you're becoming or who you want to be, because we definitely change so much through adulthood, and that's kind of never really done. So as long as you're always honest with yourself and curious about yourself and allowing those opportunities for new exploration when it's presented to you, man, I feel like that's the way to do life.
Yeah, personally. That's good. Yeah. And I think that's the cure for, the kind of poly, purity that we were talking about, because I remember experiencing some of that in my last relationship with the partner that was seeing the couple, and me just not having a desire to see anybody else. It's like, I just want to hang out with you. I was fine with her seeing other people, obviously, because I would like to say that I have transcended a lot of the, kind of jealousy that I had when I was younger. And so I'm like, I feel, secure in what we're doing. I know those two people, they're cool. I know that she's happy. I didn't really want to go see anybody else because I'm not done hanging out with you, And what's kind of crazy about it is when I did start seeing somebody else, my, pandemic girlfriend, reached back out. The first time that we had sex again, it was very noticeable that, this is not my partner. Like,
Whoa.
yeah, I was like, this feels different. Like, this doesn't feel like my partner, you know? And like for a hot second, like I didn't think that I could do it, you know? Yeah.
That changed very quickly.
I was going to say that I obviously did. So pat on my back, you know, it was fine. But I, you know, sent her a text on the way home and just explained to her what the situation was. Cause she had some trauma about like, you know, being polyamorous and then all of a sudden her partner meeting somebody and then being like, oh, I don't want to be poly anymore. I want to be with this person, just this person. And so now we're done. And so she had, you know, some anxiety about that. And so I texted her on the way home and just said, hey, this is what I experienced and it's fucking you, you know, like I didn't think that I could do it. And I missed you a lot, you know, I had fun, you know, and all that. And like, we can talk about it. But if anything, it just like reaffirmed my attachment sounds like a bad word. I don't mean it like that, but just my knowing that, yeah, I'm with you, you know. But that's also where we're getting into like, you know, you're my primary partner, even though that wasn't the intent. It's like, yeah, it's you.
Wow. Are we ready to take this to the next level and dive into some kink talk?
Oh, geez.
So relationship anarchy. It's all about the idea of, is this authority actually an authority you recognize, control and whatnot? So then branching into kinks and domination, most people always think that, you know, dom is truly just control. So how does relationship anarchy change that perspective of what like dom sub relationships really look like?
Is this a question for me?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. So, okay. Second hot take, and also just continuing to preface this with, this is my perspective. Everybody do you. This is my opinion on it. And I've talked to Cam about this a couple of times. You know, man, I think it would be difficult to come, I guess Will kind of talked about this to kind of start us off. I think it would be difficult to come at kink without a leftist perspective. You know, because, you know, being conservative, you know, it can lead to, you know, predatory actions because people who are conservative believe in like natural hierarchies, you know. So for the question, and this is about like being a good dom, you were saying? Sorry, I got distracted with that.
Or just even the existence of what a true dom sub-relationship is against what most people's perception really is.
Right, yeah.
I would qualify it as healthy kink.
Yes.
You know,
Sure.
I think conservatives are capable of kink. Is it the healthiest, most well-rounded kink? No. I think it's kink for the sake of control and kink for the sake of power and domination that feeds into the natural order of societal patriarchy. Whereas kink for your partner's pleasure, I do agree with you that it probably has to come from a leftist perspective because you do have to be putting the needs of others first.
Yeah, and I was going to say we should probably define what that means. And yeah, you know, anti-capitalist, like anti-hierarchy, that kind of stuff. Thinking of a more, you know, communal approach for sure. Thinking outside of yourself, that kind of stuff. Making sure that you're not exhibiting like ownership over somebody else because you fucking don't, you know. Just the counterintuitiveness of like relationship anarchy and like leftism, but then like, you know, being a dom, right? And Cam had asked me for a client, how would I describe being a dom, right? For somebody who was interested. The dom really has to understand that there's no ownership, you know? It's not that like you're still dealing with a human, like everybody's still a human, right? And the kind of exchange that I was talking about there is when people think about dom and sub, they think that there's like a power dynamic exchange at first. And yeah, that can happen, but that's not the basis of it. So to me, the basis of it, and this could be, you know, patriarchal, this could be all kinds of stuff coming from my perspective. So take all this with a big giant grain of salt. The dom needs to create a safe space, right? Wherein the person that you are engaging with can then submit, right? Like that's the exchange. Like the dom is offering a safe space, and then the sub, right? When they become a sub, is offering being a sub. Like that's what the exchange is, and that has to be established first. You know, again from my still fairly you know, limited experience.
How's that established?
Through communication. And also like, this is so hard to like qualify and like quantify. Like the dom really has to know themselves, right? And really be comfortable with themselves because like, again, like you're creating a safe space for somebody else, right? And you're going to hold that space for somebody else too. That takes a lot. That takes a lot of like mental, energy and thoughtfulness. And it's difficult to do if you're not very clear with who you are, what like your limitations are, how you see other people. It's not something that you can just like jump into. And what's kind of weird about that too is that I didn't know that I was a dom. I just sort of like fell into, and I also like wouldn't say that I'm a dom like all the time. It's just a thing that happens on occasion when somebody asks for it. I've noticed that too. I haven't put that I'm a dom in any of my dating profiles.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I think that I just recently put it on Field like 2 weeks ago because I was like, let's see what this looks like, if anybody's interested. But it's not something that I advertise. And I don't bring it up until somebody else brings it up or if anybody asks about kink or whatever.
Oh, it definitely took me by surprise.
Yeah, right. Because it just,
I did not see it coming when we first met.
Yeah, but then it also just kind of happened, And I think that's important too, is that Jesus Christ, man, if you're claiming to be a dom and you're out there and people know that you're a dom, that's probably not a great look, bro. Like, like what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're probably just an asshole.
Yeah.
Then it comes back around to men just trying to impress other men. Honestly, is what that comes down to as far as like making it known, right?
Sure.
Because why else would you?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
No one goes around proudly proclaiming, "Oh, I'm a sub."
Right.
Yeah.
So, but what's so funny to me is that in so many of these dynamics, it really is the sub that actually has the power and the control because they set the pace, they set the tone, they set the boundaries for themselves and for the dom to operate within, right?
Yes.
And it's the dom's responsibility then to know what buttons to push, how to push them, how far you can push, because you are in control in many cases of somebody's psyche.
Yes.
Which is, the ultimate show of trust. So you really have to establish that trust before you can really get very far into a dom-sub dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like most men who are interested in becoming doms do it for the wrong reasons. And they do it for the reason of control, just like we've talked about. And it's funny because the men that I have met and talked to that are like, eventually they want to get into doming or whatever if it comes up. And you're like, but man, you can't balance a normal relationship. And you're to put all of this fragile, emotional, heightened things, and you think that will be easier because you are, quote unquote, in control. And it's just not the case.
I think, again, men are always trying to validate their own masculinity for themselves or for others based off of what society has deemed masculine. And I think for so many of them, they have to identify, they don't have to, but when they choose to identify as a dominant person in the bedroom specifically, it's because they probably are insecure about their own masculinity. And so they are probably often reaching for some sort of internal validation from it, which is the wrong way to approach doming, in my opinion, because it has to be for the other person. When in reality, a lot of these men, just in general, a lot of men that proclaim to be dominant or want to be dominant really could benefit a lot more from being submissive.
From being a sub.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they could
funny.
actually gain a lot more out of it and probably more what they need.
So one of the areas I'm interested in too is obviously all kinks are going to have flexibility. It all depends on the people participating and the boundaries they're setting. But there's technically like different classifications to styles of doming. And like when we first met Cam, I was always under the naive mindset of, it's very much just the idea of the power dynamic and control, and more like the classic BDSM route of, okay, in the bedroom, I give demands and the sub does what is being demanded of. But then when we met Cam and she was describing the kind of dom styles that have worked on her, and it was much more of a idea of the environment and space created, almost be like, yes, I don't have to be the one making this decision. I can be treated well and I'm being cared for. And that was something that took me a bit to understand of, it's not like the classic way I've always thought of a dom-sub relationship. But it really highlighted the idea of there's totally different ways to approach it. Every person's going to be different. And a dom is probably going to have, especially the different partners, different types of dom styles for different partners. So I'm curious kind of what your experience, if that's been something for you as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and like this, I think gets into like the more like service dom stuff versus being, like a daddy sort of dom. And like the like quick note that I wrote is like if you're doing it for somebody else, right? Because Cam, I think that you mentioned this. I think that we have to keep an eye on doms being a dom for somebody else. Because if it's only about the other person's, pleasure and experience, that can also be kind of toxic because, like you're a person too, right? It needs to be like an equal flow of exchange, right? For sure. Like I want to be seen being a dom, and I want to have like feedback, right? And know that my partner is experiencing stuff that's, important and good and healthy and fun and exciting and all that. And if it's too servicey, that's probably like an attachment trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where again, like this is my take, all doms are anxiously attached. So if they're too servicey doms, they're probably just like, please don't leave me. Can I do this for you? Well, like what else can I get? Right. But it's in the sort of wrapping of like a dom sub relationship. Right. I think like kink in general, right. All this is just like a medium to learn and grow and express yourself. Right. Being intimate and being more on like the daddy dom side is not like, I'm never going to get to express that anywhere else, man. Right. But that kind of like care and, attention for somebody else is in there. I got to get that shit out, in some way. Right. Where it's not like, toxic, like masculinity or like patriarchy.
You're on some really great topics before that train rudely interrupted saying, train. Yeah.
That's a thing now. You got to leave that part in for the listeners.
Oh, that's a soundbite for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. So let's re-explain it real quick for the listeners because I think we might have been paused.
Okay. Yeah. So for any object that makes a sound like a train or a door, I imagine it saying its name, saying the thing that it is. So when a train's going by, it's going train, train. Or if it's a door that's like squeaky, it's like door. And now we have train part 2. We'll see if they can pick it up.
That's how I feel with animals too. Like when a cow moos,
Yeah.
it's just saying cow.
Yeah. Because we did dogs. So it's like dog, dog, dog,
Yep.
dog, dog. Yeah.
Yeah, this train is ruthless.
Oh,
There's
it's the
so
best.
many.
How did they go by so fast? Like, there was just one.
I didn't
You guys
know
are hauling ass.
I didn't know we used so many trains.
Yeah.
Still. I was like, they still use these things?
What is this, 1890?
This has to be some of the most used train tracks in America.
Coal. Yeah. Shipping coal.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, we were diving into, Paige had asked a question about the distinction between the different types of DOMs and how that relationship kind of changes between
Different partners.
Yeah, different partners of like how one sub can be different from others. And then I guess there's even the whole aspect of there's switch. There's those that like to be both dom and sub. And honestly, if I'm being realistic, that's probably where I fall into a little bit more.
Sure.
No, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been experimenting in my own head with being a sub or just having somebody dom me. I feel like this is going to sound weird, but I feel like I would have to pay for it. Like I got to find a pro, like, because I'm going to need like the full experience. Not like we're going to have to go easy, obviously, but I'm going to have somebody that knows what they're doing, just because like this is a lot, and I don't know if like a civilian's going to be able to like work their way through all of the shit that I have up in front of people.
So yeah, I'm very interested to kind of hear in your experience how your doming or your experience with subs have really highlighted those differences.
For me, like what I was saying is like you really have to keep an eye on being too much of a service dom, because I can not like a service dom, but I can be very oriented towards my partner at the expense of my own needs and like my own, communication and all that. Because again, anxiously attached, bro. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. Like I'll figure it out. And then at some point it like blows up and it's like, oh, we haven't ever been talking about me. And it's like, yeah, because you haven't fucking brought it up, bro. And that can express itself in being a dom. And I think, again, for me anyway, a cure for that is, the more like daddy dom sort of like centered approach where, again, it's very much, you have to cultivate the space first. And kind of like Cam was saying, there's a reciprocation in the sense that like the dom in that instance is being given the submission by the sub. Like you're being allowed to do this thing, and that's a responsibility, for sure. And like also for me, like there's a release in it where I can be a kind of, how can I say this, like intimate and caring and thoughtful that I don't usually get to be in everyday life, like to take care of somebody, right? And like that's an outlet, So I'm trying to think if I've ever experienced being in a dom space where it was just about like domination in the sense like before I even like was thinking about like before I was cognizant of like what I was doing. And I don't think so, just because I wouldn't have been aware that would have been a thing to begin with, but the outlet, right? The outlet to be compassionate, right? To be thoughtful, and to be able to share that space with somebody who is allowing you to do it. I'm sure that service doms have that experience because I don't understand what that would look like.
And what specifically like is like an easy difference between daddy dom and service dom, for example?
So when like the dom space or like the dom scene, like what do you want to call it, like takes over, you're calling the shots, like, the dom is versus, again, from what I understand, the more service dom would be maybe, not like told what to do, but like prompted to do certain things, right? Versus if you are, doing like a daddy dom, you're like the one that's going to be in charge, and you're the one that's making the decisions, and that's already kind of been decided upon that everybody's cool with that, right? And this is the way that it's going to go. And like also for me too, it stops when like sexy time stops. I know people that have had that kind of back and forth where it's like a 24/7 thing.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking exhausting, bro. Like,
yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Like, why would? Yeah, totally just me. I don't get it, but just because I don't get it doesn't fucking mean anything, right? But to me, it's so much like mental work that it's just like my brain would be on all the time, and I wouldn't have a break from anything. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like people who have in polyamory who have like 8 partners.
Yes,
and I'm just like, how?
Yeah,
how do you have?
I don't get it.
The time or mental capacity, or I feel so often that I'm not putting enough time and effort with these two. And so I could not imagine just upping that with more people.
Yeah.
Or like a situation where you're 24/7 a dom, and like that just, it sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, totally. And especially if you're going to do it correctly, you have to be on all the time, and I would feel terrible. Like if I wasn't showing up in a space that I needed to show up, and somebody felt like left out or didn't have their needs met, and so I can't do that, and it winds up being kind of toxic because I may just like stop talking, for instance, and that's fucked up, but that's also, again, why you have to like talk about things and communicate, and hey, be a grown up person about this kind of shit.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've had a lot of experiences on your road here, right? Of just in the lifestyle of kink, polyamory, doming, things like that. What was it that brought your like attention to it, right? We talked off air about some books we had read and stuff. And in some of those books, they talk about how these thoughts have always been with them their whole life. And they found its acceptance within doming and like understanding. So what was your first experience like, and what made you want to do it?
That's a great question. So I have 2 responses. Don't let me forget both of them. one is what I've kind of been saying is because I'm anxiously attached. I think that being a daddy dom, or just a dom in general, as long as you're doing it correctly, is a healthy outlet for that kind of trauma attachment, right? Where you can share that experience and have that outlet of, okay, here's a person that is going to need me in this space, right? And I'm going to create the space and all that. In one instance, it's a healthy way to experience and deal with your attachment trauma. And then the other one, it kind of happened by accident. I was with a girl, I must have been like 24, and we were in bed and, kind of like doing our thing. And I was on top, not thinking anything of anything, just doing the sex, as a 24-year-old dude is going to do it, And she asks if she could call me daddy, kind of like under her breath, and I was like, "What? I didn't know that was a thing. Like, what's?" And I didn't really have a response, right? But that like stuck because I was like, "Sure," and now I don't know what to do, So there was like a long time from that experience again when I was like 24 to like I'm fucking 40 now, so like spoiler alert, in like cultivating all that. But that was my first experience of that could be a kink, or that could be an option in the bedroom, And then since then I've just kind of been exploring like what that means. And again, because of the kind of attachment trauma that I have, that's just how it like influenced itself. It's the third train, right on. There, is it 4? Goddamn, bro.
This is extraordinary. Honestly, this is exceptionally rare.
Yeah, this is back to back.
Colin Cole, bro.
This has to be the last one.
I had a question. How has the area in which you've lived in impacted your kink and or lifestyle exploration?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Texas, from here. And I had an inkling that I was polyamorous when I was still here. I had a girlfriend here for the longest time that I lived with for about a year that was insanely jealous of a friend of mine, and I wound up being jealous of her, and it was a whole thing. But I realized through that experience that I
What the fuck?
right on. So yeah, me being from Texas, right? I had a girlfriend here for like 3 years that I lived with for about a year. And I also had a very close friend that was a teacher that I knew before I met this girl that I was seeing. And my girlfriend wound up being very jealous of my teacher friend because my teacher friend was, a girl and she's attractive. But we were like best friends for like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years before I met my partner that I was with in Texas. And, like my partner and I were both very insecure. We were both like very jealous of each other. This is also kind of like where I wanted to start exploring transcending being jealous and just transcending the feeling of like ownership and you belong to me. You can't talk to anybody else. No one else can make you laugh. That's fucked up if they do. At the same time, though, my teacher friend and I wound up like developing our friendship, I guess, to the point where it's like, I think that we're falling in love with each other. Like, is this a thing that's happening? And we talked about it and we're like, yeah, I think it's a fucking thing that's happening. Like I never cheated, physically, but emotionally, I was falling in love at the same time with somebody else, but I was realizing that it's not making me love my partner any less. Like, and it was the first experience that I had with being in love with two people at the same time. And like even wanting to be with two people at the same time, because it was very clear to me that, I love this person that I'm with and that I would later, live with. And it's like me having these feelings for my friend now is not making me feel any kind of less than the other person, And so it was the first confrontation I had with like the more traditional box that we're all put in, that you can only love one person at a time. Only one person can make you laugh at a time. And I was like, this doesn't feel like it's correct. This feels weird, and it caused a lot of tension. With like that relationship, with both relationships. As a matter of fact, I had to end that friendship. Because my partner was not cool with it, and it was got to a point where she was like, yeah, you have to end that friendship or we're done. And so I chose her because I was in love with her, and it was just, it wasn't easier, but it wound up being easier just to end the friendship, and we stopped being friends for a little bit.
That reminds me of a story of a friend of mine who has kind of recently come into polyamory herself. And she had realized that she had gone her whole life in that compulsory monogamous approach to relationships, where she would be in a good relationship, but then have these additional interactions with people where she would catch herself and be like, oh, I'm flirting, or I'm getting close to this person at work, or I really identify with this person on this level. So if I'm feeling these feelings, I must not love the person that I'm with. And so she would break up with that person so that she could, feel better in a more ethical approach to exploring her feelings for this other person that was, tapping into something else that, she wasn't, maybe getting in that other relationship. So she would do the quote unquote right thing and break up with that person, even though there was nothing wrong with that relationship, so that she could ethically explore the feelings that she had for this other person, only to typically find that, yes, there might be a passing flirtation or whatever, but those relationships never really took off in the way that her other relationship, had that stability, right? And so when she started adopting the idea of polyamory, she's like, oh, maybe I've always been polyamorous because I've always been a flirtatious person. I've always been able to connect with people on completely different levels at different at the same time, but in different ways. And I've always abandoned one relationship for the sake of exploring another because I felt like I needed to, and I needed to be honest and do it in a ethical and appropriate way. And only to end up ultimately not in either of those relationships and hurting a lot of people in the process, when really maybe if she had been able to just explore those feelings as they came up with ancillary partners that, spoke to a different part of her personality than her existing partner did, she wouldn't have to abandon that original primary partnership for the sake of exploring others.
Yeah, that's so terrifying to have those experiences and those feelings, and then to face having to bring that up to your partner and be like, hey, I think I'm feeling this, because like what I've experienced, like with that relationship in Texas, that would never fly. Like if I told my girlfriend in Texas that I wanted to be polyamorous, she's like, I fucking knew it. Like we're done. Like how dare you? Like all this kind of stuff, So somebody discovering that, about themselves and then having to tell their partners, I mean, like I would imagine it's just like, like being gay and like understanding that, oh, like I'm queer or I'm gay or I'm bi or something. And just the fucking horror you'd have to deal with. Like no one's going to accept this,
Yeah.
The biggest fear is being rejected by those we love.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I was on the same page as you. Of like, yeah, that's probably the closest a cis white guy like us can ever come to coming out.
Yeah.
Because like it's a difficult conversation to have those kind of conversations.
Yeah. Cause it's like, I don't want to leave this person. Like I still love you, like very strongly. Like I do not want this thing to end. I'm also feeling this, that's fucking wild.
Yeah.
And also very liberating when done right. And when it can be received, if it can be communicated and if it can be received, it can really launch so much freedom and that feeling of another level of love that you feel from that existing partner to be seen and validated in such a way, to be given that freedom to explore the parts of yourself that, might exist outside of the original connection, that you would also like to see flourish in whatever ways that they can, and that other partners could potentially facilitate. But to your point, it doesn't mean that you love that other person any less or that you're not satisfied with them. It just means we can all be more complete versions of ourselves when we are loved in the biggest way possible, which is, to be given that space to be ourselves and to explore ourselves fully.
Yeah.
and minimizing like the shame and guilt too.
Yeah,
Because I mean, and there's things that we should, as humans, feel shame and guilt for naturally. But when it comes to love, to then all of a sudden have that intertwined, it just causes more confusion. And often, if we're putting too much shame and guilt on ourselves, then we start projecting that onto partners. And so, to be able to know who you are and acknowledge that you can be flexible in developing who you are is so important to try to minimize that shame and guilt.
100%.
Oh, yeah. Spot on.
Yeah, that's the same thing I was thinking about, being a dom is you have to be okay with all the parts of you, and like go to fucking therapy, do all the things, try to understand yourself, talk to people exactly like this, and to bring it full circle, this is like where RA comes in. You stop trying to fit into a box. Human beings are way too complex across the board to fit in some like stereotypical mold. Our emotions are too complex. The way that we interact, our, sexuality, way too complex for anything that, it has to be this. And if it's not this, then you're fucking weird and wrong. And we're going to like burn you at the stake.
And why would we all want to be the same?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't understand that part of it. Like when people will call out, well, that's just not normal. Okay.
There's no
when
normal.
is being normal even one, a thing, and two, why would I want to be normal if that just means like everyone else? I've never wanted to be like everybody else.
Before we get too far away from RA again, I wanted to ask, what brought about your discovery of RA? What is the thing that got you into it? Like, how long have you been about RA? Like, I'm so curious.
Yeah, it's good. My politics, for sure. Coming from a leftist perspective, I've been a classical anarchist because it's hard to be, politically an anarchist because you got to fucking vote. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to change anything because it's probably not, but it can put a floor below the suffering. And so for me, it was trying to meld those two worlds. Between like my political philosophy and my approach to, society and like the background that I have, I teach. And so like history and like the humanities and all that. And the just deconstructing hierarchies and like this sounds correct across the board. So how far can this go? And then with the experiences I had of loving two people at the same time, and being jealous was like another thing. I'm like, this doesn't feel okay. Like it feels bad to have like this implication of like ownership over somebody else, right? That seems bad. So if I have this one thing over here of like, my political philosophy of deconstruction of hierarchies, I have to see that in the social, like relationship realm. I don't control anybody else, and that took a long time. It took, 5 or 6 years probably, and really didn't come into its full expression until I moved to Boulder, where just, it's easier to have that kind of experience and lifestyle in a place that's just more accepting. As you've all have experienced, it is difficult to be in a place like Texas and live an alternative lifestyle, from the norm. I kind of fucking hate that phrase too, like an alternative lifestyle.
Right.
It's kind of lame. It's just like, but like being in a space that's more welcoming and just more in line with, it's cool, whatever. And people are fine with it. That was easier.
Let's change it from an alternative lifestyle to more of a loving lifestyle.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because that is it. We're accepting love in all forms and all directions, and we're figuring it out.
Oh, I do actually have a question that kind of relates to it. You obviously mentioned kind of how you got into where you are now. What resources, though, when you were first discovering that, hey, this is non-traditional, I'm more into relationship anarchy, what did you turn to resource-wise? Because like for me, kind of a silly thing of what it's established a lot of my ideas of love has been movies and culture, and that's kind of shaped my perspective. And of course, as culture changes, that helps shape perspective changes. But when you need that like immediate resource of, okay, I know this is different than what the world's telling me, where did you go to for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I always hate those kinds of questions because they're so good and I don't ever have a great response to them. Like podcasts are going to be great. I heard a few people mention stuff, like relationship anarchy, just kind of off the cuff. Like Robert Evans does a podcast called Behind the Bastards. He's a conflict journalist and a anarchist, and he's mentioned it like a few times, and I was like, no, like what's that? But this is also just an example of how my like academic sort of career kind of coincides with how I try to approach my relationships. That the book Polysecure is really good. How I learned about like attachment styles. It's for poly people, but even if you're not poly, you can read it, and it explains a lot of stuff. And this is just how to know who you are, right? And yeah, like knowing the things about myself that I've learned in therapy, that I've learned through books, that I've just learned through like partners telling me shit, and just like, oh, that's a good point. Thanks for pointing that out, babe. And then channeling that, because like there are some parts of me that are just like, this is a part of me, like whether I like it or not, like being anxiously attached, is going to be a thing. I've worked on it a lot for sure, but in a Dom space that, like we were talking about, kind of allows that side of me a space to exist where it's not going to be shamed, you know what I mean? Or pushed to the side, right? Because I've also done like quite a bit of work on it too. So I feel comfortable with like embracing that part of it, and just allowing it to be in a healthy space for sure. There's another book that I recommended to you, Cam, besides Polysecure. You remember what it was off the top of your head? Sorry.
I have it written down.
Yeah, because nowadays, I mean, there's so many more resources than before. There's almost too many resources now, almost.
Yeah, right.
Was it The Ethical Slut?
No, I do have that one, which it's good. It's kind of dated now, but it's good for sure. And like you can search RA on any podcast list or any book list, and a bunch of stuff's going to come up for sure. Oh, I know what it was. The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. Yeah, this is going to get kind of fucking woo, so just heads up. But I would highly recommend reading or listening to The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. That's probably the first thing that put shape around what polyamory can look like. And it also like really encapsulates, there's a chapter in there called The Magical Kitchen. I forget which chapter it is. But it's the idea that this kitchen exists somewhere that just pumps out food like nonstop, and it never runs out of, resources or anything or ingredients. And that's true of love. Like there is like approaching love and a sense of like, it can only go to this person because I have like a finite amount of love and I'm giving it to somebody, is a capitalist fucking way of thinking. Yeah. That's like a scarcity approach to love. And that shit doesn't exist, bro. Like, it's not like all of a sudden you turn 80 and, well, I've loved this one person for 50 years and now I'm out of love because I was looking at the tank and it's getting close to E. That's not a thing that happens, And yeah, that was the first thing that put words to the feeling and thoughts that I had about loving two people at the same time and being able to push love like out of me, where it's just a creation machine in my heart that just comes out to people,
I like that.
Yeah. And it's anti-capitalist, so.
Right.
No scarcity.
Any things for us?
And like we can, cut this if we need to, but just for my own indulgence, I was going to ask you guys to rehash, and you can like totally say no, how you realize that you were all in love with each other, right? Because like we talked about that, it's been a while, but just for, again, my own sake, I'm interested in that because I don't think I caught all of it. When did you guys know, oh, this is a thing, right? Because what happened was Cam was talking about it, and it made me think of an experience that I had, and so I went off on that. But you were talking about how you don't want to spend time with anybody else, and I'm like, I know that feeling, and so so all that kind of trailed off for me.
For me, jealousy.
Oh, really?
I was jealous of you.
Of like me?
No shit. Of you, yeah. Yeah, for our listeners that don't realize,
It's because his name's Will.
William. Yes. I was like, oh, there can't be two.
There can be only one.
But yeah, for our listeners, William and Cam dated. Kind of. They seem, I don't know, poly, right? Whatever that entails. So that's how they originally knew each other and met. And so that's how Paige and I learned about doming, or at least the kind of doming that Cam likes. And she was like, well, this one guy that I was seeing for a while, William from Colorado, that's just the way it is. And you're the reason we listen to these books. There's so many. It's so funny because, for a while, I was bitter. I was real bitter about it. I was like, I was like, I don't want to hear his name. I don't want to hear a reference. I don't want to anything.
That's so funny. I mean,
No, it is funny.
It's funny to hear that coming from you. Because, I don't know if anybody's ever seen Will before. He doesn't need to be jealous of anybody. So it's just, you know what I mean? I don't know if there's a camera on us or anything. I have seen pictures of the podcast, so I'm sure that people who are listening have seen Will. He doesn't have to be jealous of anybody on planet Earth. So let's be real.
I appreciate that. Thank you. But no, that shows exactly how love and the fear of losing someone that you love or having feelings for can pump out these emotions that we don't normally experience, or that a lot of people think we don't experience.
Right.
What about you girls?
I think, at least for me, part of it was just, not coming to terms, but finally being okay with exploring bisexuality as a component of identity. Because technically, I think I've always known I was bisexual. It was just more, I've just fallen into frequently dating men in monogamous, long-term, committed relationships. Just happened to get married and fall in love with a man. So it's more like, I just don't need to explore that. And then over time, realizing, it's not a thing of shame of wanting to explore it, but looking at more of, hey, this is only going to build experiences, and having a great support system built in of you wanting me to also explore and whatnot. But in terms of relationship expansion, I think it was just having the mindset finally of, hey, whatever happens, as long as it feels right, why deny it anymore? And so meeting Cam, it just felt right.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to, I know we've said it before, prioritize as much time as we could to spend together was the most important thing. And I know for some folks that we've met who've been in more traditional polyamorous relationships with multiple partners, hearing similar sentiments of being this one person though is the one that I wanted to spend every day with and could see myself with them every day through the good and bad, knowing that could then be expanded to multiple people. And we just got really lucky in that we could experience that in an exclusive throuple. But just acknowledging that this is just something different. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
Yeah, for me, how I identified that we were all falling in love was definitely surrounding the fact that, I had been dating for a few years at that point and had never really felt like I wanted to stop dating other people. So that was a really new feeling for me, and also experiencing the jealousy too, of just the thought of having to share you with other people wasn't sitting as naturally as it had for others that I just didn't have that depth of feeling for. And I had sort of been waiting in the dating process to really be able to feel something strongly enough for someone that I could, really dive into and let go of myself, and want to take a risk, because obviously there was a shit ton of risk with this involved. But the fact that I wanted to introduce you to my friends right away, I hadn't introduced my friends to anybody that I dated in the last few years. And the fact that I wanted to introduce you to the kiddo was also just a big signifier to me that I knew how serious this was and how committed my heart was to it, because that was just not something that had even come close to a possibility with anybody else in several years. So yeah, that was kind of when I knew I was definitely in trouble. I mean, I called them trouble from the very first date though. So I guess I saw it coming, even though we didn't intend for it to really happen the way that it did. I knew that they were trouble for sure.
Well, and likewise with the kiddo, pretty early on, like, I don't like kids at all. I don't like being around kids. I don't like even being around parents, because then all they do is talk about their kids. Like, their whole world surrounds their kids.
I just hate people.
Yeah, honestly,
general.
yes.
Whatever size they are.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
But the fact that pretty early on, both Will and I, like, we do want to meet the kiddo and had that desire to be a part of his life. Because, like, we did want to be parents, and I've had my own health issues that have prevented a lot of opportunities for that. And not that we were like, oh, this is going to be our way in. This is the easy solution.
We got one.
But it was a big, significant, noticeable change of, I want to spend time with this kid. And I want to spend time basically building a family unit. And that was very unexpected. And then just acknowledging, yes, that's what I want. And is this going to happen? Let's communicate and find out.
I think a lot of it too was realizing that the red flags that we had on this list, for the right person, they weren't red flags.
Right.
They didn't matter. And it's because there's so many other wonderful things that I'm like, yeah, these things don't matter.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. Also, Cam, God damn it, was that so sexy when you just like corrected the mic posture in time? Good job.
Thank you.
I'm really attracted
Good
to your
girl.
mic etiquette. Yeah. There you go.
Didn't think I was Dobie, but yes. All right, do we want to, is there anything
Hold on.
else?
Yeah, I'm going to be thinking about that compliment for a while now.
Check.
That's what does it for me.
You should.
Remember that video I showed you about
Yes,
the
I do.
Pilates instructor? That falls right into that category. So thank you.
We'll show you later. So we've had some great conversation here. I think we've covered a lot of things. I say that we move on to the fan favorite, the rapid fire questions.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually have questions prepared this time.
All right.
We've learned from our mistakes. Rapid fire. Rapid fire.
3 words that encompass being a dom.
Okay, 3 words that encompass this is what it means to be a dom. I'm assuming to me. I'm not speaking for the entire community out there. Compassion, for sure. Communication. I want to say attentiveness, but that's not it. Safety. You know.
Solid choice.
So
Yeah.
sexy.
Yeah. And, it's probably going to be different for other people. But it also depends on, what kind of dynamic you're trying to cultivate.
All right, next question. How old were you when you lost your virginity?
Oh, I was older. I was like 20.
No way.
Yeah, I was a late bloomer. Yeah.
All right. Do you believe in ghosts? Why or why not?
I don't believe in ghosts. Because how long do I have, Will?
Got it. They don't exist.
Okay, they don't exist. Next.
Have you ever met a celebrity?
Probably. I've met like sports people before. Yeah.
Okay. What was your first job?
My first job was sacking groceries at Kroger in Keller when I was like 14 or 15. Yeah.
What's one useless skill you have?
I'm left-handed. So that's
Do you believe in any conspiracy theories?
no. It depends. That's such a loaded question. A lot of conspiracy theories. That's not true. I'm not going to say that.
Stem from truth.
Are either like distractions or like whatever. But there are some that are for sure true. So I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Do you believe in conspiracy theories?
I mean, yeah.
You
Like, there's a couple that are for sure true.
Old music or new music?
Old music.
How would your 10-year-old self react to who you are today?
He probably couldn't comprehend it. So he probably wouldn't know how to react. He'd probably just see me as just like an adult person and have no reaction whatsoever. Be like, that's gay.
Well, technically, yes, in a way.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It is.
Yeah, you should explore that, man.
All right. The hard-hitting and last question. In what ways are you similar to your mother?
That's funny. We're both very empathic. I get my sort of sense of emotions that are around me from her, and we just both experience the world in a lot of the same ways. She gets that from her dad, though, too. So my grandfather, my mom, and I are all kind of the same person.
Very important quality for successful doming.
I was going to say, like, there is a compassion and sort of, caring quality in there that is important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Do you have any questions for us?
Well, not like that. I mean, gee, those were like really good. What app could you not live without and why? This is for the table.
My calculator app.
Calculator app?
I
All right.
need it so much.
Right on.
I can't do math in my head still, even as an accountant. It just isn't going to happen. So I always want to make sure my tip is correct. And
That makes
I
sense.
don't know. I use it very, very frequently, more
Okay.
than I probably should.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Spotify.
Yeah, music for sure.
Or just, whatever your preference of
Yeah.
music app is, because silence. I can't listen to myself.
And here we are.
I don't listen to the podcast.
Right, yeah.
Photos, probably.
Oh, that's a cute
Okay.
one.
Yeah, all right.
Can I change mine?
I mean, realistically, mine's probably Reddit, and that's pretty shameful. But
Reddit. Oh, man, I have so many questions for you. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for that one.
Yeah, I know.
I have one more question for the benefit of all of our listeners out there, both men and women alike. How do you do the finger thing?
Oh, this is for me?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
See, this is why I was jealous. I heard about this.
I've been asked. I'm not going to say that. So, do I have to explain what the finger thing is? Have you talked about it on the podcast?
No.
So, okay. Guys will watch porn and think that they can do like the squirting thing to women. And that's the one, hey, consent though. Maybe ask if you can make somebody's body do a thing first. So get consent first. It doesn't have to be nearly as violent as people think that it is. There is a little like pussy heartbeat in there, and you just have to find it. I use my like middle finger, and I use my left hand because I'm left-handed, and it just feels like I have more sensitivity in that. And you go slow, and I can go into detail, but it's almost like you're trying to like coax it out a little bit. Like you have to like be willing to talk to it a little bit. It's like you're communicating with the pussy, for lack
Pussy
of
whisperer.
for lack of a better way to describe it. Because like some people have trauma and it's not up front, or it's not super like developed.
Accessible.
Yeah, there you go. And so a lot of it has to do with calming the person down, being in the space, being comfortable with their own body. There are women, obviously, everybody knows, that have never squirted before and either don't know how, or that would freak them out because they've been told it's gross, And so that experience of just, hey, whatever fucking happens is okay. If nothing happens, that's okay too. And I still love you. Like whatever needs, to be said to make people feel safe. But yeah, there's a heartbeat in there, and a lot of guys, because they're guys, we're gonna stick with like the guy bashing for a second. Sorry, I heard that like on the last episode. I was like, I do that. All right, right on. Like a lot of guys will be very violent with it, and you don't have to. Just like a little bit of pressure, on the heartbeat that you feel at like the tip of your finger, and you got to walk the person through it. So they can experience it, because that's the whole thing, is you're doing a thing to like somebody else's body. So be mindful of that. And yeah, just continue to apply pressure slowly until a reaction starts to happen. And then just follow instruction. That's kind of like where the service dom comes in like a little bit, is like, be willing to listen, bro. And so, yeah, be gentle, be mindful, be sensitive.
So I feel like we're beating around the bush or beating around the pussy here. This finger thing, this is to get a woman to squirt, and it's like a instruction manual.
It can be, yeah. Like not everybody squirts all the time, but orgasm. Yeah.
Yes. It's a like a button of sorts.
Yeah.
Why am I just now hearing about this button that has always existed?
Go on.
I'm gonna need
I
a
didn't know
visual
it was
demonstration.
there.
There's like a cantaloupe probably around here somewhere.
Yeah. Can you give a direction? Because I don't know how to explain it
Well-
in terms of insertion and like
Okay.
how do you find that heartbeat? Where do you look for it initially? Is it down? Is it up? Is it side to side?
Or does it depend on the person?
It kind of depends on the person. It's always going to be up. It's in the traditional, like G-spot, location that people have been told about. In terms of like strategy, right? So, because I didn't know how detailed I was going to need to get.
I'm gonna need like a treasure map. Here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can like sketch it out, right? I always like to be like have like my partner, flat on their back on the bed, but like you can do it however you want to. And I always use my right hand to put on their chest and find their actual heartbeat, and just sort of like as a calming, it's like a calming thing, just to like ground them and like physical touch, right? And then I like to ask for a couple of like deep breaths, just to be in the space, kind of like you would do if you're going to go into therapy, for instance. And I need to be in my body, right? So I'm going to take a second, take a few deep breaths, be here in the moment, feel my body, feel the bed under you, feel the person's hand in my heart, right? So be here. And then, it's like one finger, you're not trying to go big, right? Because you're also, again, like going to enter somebody. So you're going to be careful. Nails are going to be clipped, nothing sharp. And then what I like to do is like walk them through it. So keep taking deep breaths. Eventually, and like the exhale, right? Because as you're talking the person through it, as they're exhaling, the finger is now in, and you're kind of like pressing up, and you're exploring a little bit. You're not like reaching in there or anything, but you're looking for what feels like a pulse. If you were to put your finger like on your wrist pulse, it feels almost exactly like that. The last partner I had, her pussy heartbeat, I guess, was very prominent, and so it was like wound up being very easy. But she was also pretty comfortable with herself. And so then when you find it, right, then that's when, because like the person has to feel that, right? And so again, I asked for like a few more deep breaths all the way through, and then I like very specifically asked them to like take like a breath in, like they're breathing into their pussy, and then breathe sort of out from your pussy. So it's like a deep breath, right? Because I need them to feel like where my finger is and feel like where the heartbeat is.
You're looking for like the actual contraction, the muscles.
Yeah.
And you're also increasing blood flow to that area
right.
by trying to breathe that deeply. Because what is breath but oxygenating the blood
Right.
and pushing it more? And that's kind of what happens prior to orgasm and to getting warmed up during foreplay. Is you're increasing blood flow to those sexual organs, and that's what causes a lot of pleasure.
So for my notes over here, is it an artery? Is it a vein? Is it a?
And I'm sure someone's gonna correct us on social media or like whatever.
Please
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, but like for sure, let us know. I'm pretty sure it's a vein that is connected or very close to a nerve, and like the nerve is what does it, and the vein is just like a guidepost to where the nerve is. I looked up the nerve at some point, and it's called something, a long name that I have since forgotten.
And since science doesn't like to study the female body,
They really
it's not listed anywhere really.
Yeah,
a
obviously,
mythical-
I didn't know about it.
It's a mythical thing. Well, most, continuing on the men bashing, most men don't
It's a safe
care to
space.
look.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and put this information at the beginning. Of the
Yeah, this is
Hook 'em.
This is like the bumper at the front.
Maybe that's what it is, a nice hook.
Yeah, right. What like that's important though too is that again, you don't have to be violent with it at all. It's really just pressure. I like barely move at all. I just like start to apply pressure and then let the body do what it's going to do. You're just sort of there, like like you're guiding it, and it'll do it.
Nice.
And that's how. Thank you. I appreciate it. No flash.
All right. Well, William, it's been wonderful having you here, man. And I think I did a full circle I think I'm back to jealousy after that little pussy button there. Yeah, we're gonna go explore that later. But yeah, man, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. It's very enlightening to not only get to talk to someone who's been in this world, but who has done it in such a compassionate way, like you have, in an understanding way. And it's awesome. It really is, because back to the guy bashing, it's nice to know that we're not all like this, right? Because even the ones that often advertise themselves like this end up not being that way. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, man.
And it's really meant a lot, and taking your time out of family and the holidays to do it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. This is cool.
And for all of those that want to follow us more, on all social media platforms at Fourth Wheel Podcast. And if you want to follow me, it is at The Will Colburn.
Yeah, follow me on TikTok at relish.every.vibe or at revdating on Instagram and YouTube. Although, full disclosure, guys, all the good stuff's on TikTok. Yeah, follow me if you want. I don't know. Fill out a form request if you want a free consult.
Sure. I guess if you want to have some laughs in your day, from scandalous and fun memes, you can find me on Instagram at Etsy Indiana Jones. Or if you really want to look up our names, you can find our property tax information too. Have some fun.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate you, and
We'll see you next week, or whenever the next episode. We don't, you know what? This is done.